What's up, everyone? Welcome back. This is the In Camp Podcast, the show where we talk all hunting, all fishing, and all the hard-earned lessons that keep us coming back season after season. I'm your host, Aaron Hepler, and today is a very special episode for In Camp and In Camp listeners and myself. I am so grateful for you listening week after week, but we have made it to a year of In Camp. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I brought on a guest that is he really means a lot to me. He's somebody that's had a lot of influence in my life. I'm sure he's had influence and impact in yours. He's already been on the podcast, and I know you already like him. So we talk a lot about what I really wanted to do with this guest is just pull out all the stuff that he is very passionate about, but doesn't get talked to directly about. It usually comes in some of his episodes on the show that he talks on, kind of indirectly, but I asked him a lot of specific questions about what he thinks is really, really important to the future of hunting and fishing, what he thinks contributes to better recruitment in hunting and fishing. This is full of good stuff, and I really, really wanted to have this episode. It was everything I wanted. So thank you so much again. Enjoy this episode. This is In Camp Podcast. I caught him before his annual winter migration to saltwater fish in the not waveless beaches of Florida. But
not waveless, buddy. There's some waves.
There's some good waves. Dude, thanks for joining me. Tony J. Peterson, people.
Thanks for having me, buddy.
Yeah. It's always good to catch up with you, man. I always like seeing your pictures of Florida. And it makes me mildly jealous because I don't really like Florida, but I do love the idea of Florida fishing and like the snook and the sharks that you can catch. I love that part. That's pretty cool.
Why do you say that you don't generally like Florida? Just curious.
It's so hot. It's so hot.
Gotta go in the winter, man.
You know, we did Disney in the winter. Remember when probably around the time where we first met, I went to Disney. And that was miserable. Disney is not Disney.
Well, yeah.
Right. Disney's like you go to Pinocchio's cabin or something in Epcot, and you pay like $50 for a slice of pizza, and it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, Disney is a different thing.
Yeah, definitely a different thing. The pool's nice, but
I'm just curious about that though, because I've been to Florida a lot, been to the Keys, been to, hunted in the Everglades, spent a lot of time on the Gulf side, spent a lot of time, over in Cocoa Beach. And it reminds me, with all the shit that's happened in Minnesota, everybody I talk to is like, hey, how's it like living in Minnesota right now? It sounds like chaos. And I'm like, Minnesota's a huge state, right? Like, and it's like so diverse. And I always think about that with Florida too. You're like, there are a lot of places in Florida that if they were like, we'll sell you all this land for $1, I'd be like, I probably would just pass on it. Like, there's a lot of places there, but there's a lot of cool stuff. And, for us just to go down and, spend a week fishing in the salt, man, it's just always worth it for me.
Yeah. I do always think about, the Keys and wanting to fish there and I'd love to catch a barracuda and do the snook thing under the mangroves. That always sounds really cool. But I remember once when I was in high school, I went on like a leadership conference down there or something, and it was with my youth group, and our youth pastor took us to his old youth pastor's place, and we're like, we're gonna go to Clearwater Beach, and it's in the Gulf or whatever. And we get to the beach, and the pastor's like, just like shuffle your feet because there's been a lot of stingrays up in here, and my son stepped on one last week. And I'm like, nah. if I'm gonna see a stingray in a bay, I'm gonna be shooting it with a bow.
Yeah, I mean, we see them all over. We've never gotten whacked, but it's definitely something that you pay attention to down there.
Yeah,
and
sure.
I'm sure people who fish in the salt a lot will think this is really stupid, but I was fishing down there years ago, and the sun was just hitting in the canal just right. and I realized how many fish were just kind of scooting through because I could finally see them.
Uh-huh.
And so I rigged up a little, sort of like a modified drop shot, uh, with a floating jig head and then a live shrimp. Cause I'm like, there's something on the bottom. And I started catching stingrays like crazy and like targeting them. And
Uh-huh.
man, they're fun. Like they're
Yeah.
just until you get them up, and then you gotta be super careful with them. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't discriminate. I like catching everything, man.
Oh yeah. And they fight hard, dude. I mean, they're
Right,
big. It doesn't matter like really the size of ray you catch. They're all big.
right.
um they are shooting them with a bow is really fun and they still fight real hard, but I spine shot one and that was kind of boring. Then you like
Right.
they just like float upwards. But other than that, they're pretty cool. um so I know you are a candy connoisseur in the tree. So how much how much candy do you think you have to replace from snacking on stand this fall?
Man, I can go pretty hard on the candy. I'm actually in a phase right now where I'm trying to really cut down on that stuff. Probably because I'm not sitting in a tree stand, but
Yeah.
we go pretty hard on the candy. My daughter, that's one of my daughter's favorite things about hunting is I always just look at that like the limited time we get in the blind together. I'm like, let's just go nuts.
Yeah.
We can make this fun in every way. And
Yeah.
so we go buy a bunch of sugary stuff and we go pretty hard in the paint.
Yeah. I'm I'm kind of the same. Hunting season always starts out like my garage is nice and organized and clean. And I probably eat cleaner towards the beginning of hunting season. By the end of it, I'm like, is there cheesesteaks for dinner tonight? Like where? And then
Right.
you get home and all this stuff's just like, just put it over there for now. But so I'm at the point where I got to clean out the garage and get back to healthier habits.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's what I've been doing lately, cleaning shotguns and putting them away and just trying to like get the hunting stuff in order because fishing season's going to be here soon. And it's sort of
Yeah.
a never ending, shuffle with just outdoor gear.
Yeah. I even well, so I've been ice fishing, so that's the other hard transition is because it's something to do in between hunting and fishing is the ice fishing. So I've got all that gear out and I'm like, man, I really do know how to make a mess in here sometimes.
It's pretty
But
easy, buddy.
yeah. Uh so what do you think do you drive to Florida or do you fly?
Fly.
Yeah. That'd be a pretty long drive for you, I guess.
Dude,
It's like
I'm not driving anywhere cross country that I can fly these days. I
yeah.
stare through that windshield so much in the spring and fall. No thanks.
Yeah, I hear that. Are you planning any out of state stuff already?
I am planning some out of state stuff, some out of country stuff. It's it's crazy. I ended up hopping into the line for Nebraska turkey tags. I actually want to take my daughters down there, and they
Okay.
sold out in an hour and a half this year, or 2 hours or something like crazy fast, right?
Yeah.
Um, and so I didn't get tags for my daughters, and then I was like, I'm looking for one big trip to take them on in the fall.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, man, I'm gonna get them deer tags and take them down to Nebraska because I got a private place to hunt where I can take them. And
Nice.
I'm like, there's no way we'll get a tag. Like, there's no way we'll get tags. And so I started looking. My fault. We can get into the fall, whatever. But turkeys have been on my mind lately, and so I ended up just randomly talking to a buddy of mine who I hunt with a lot, and he's like, dude, we got to go somewhere to hunt turkeys. And I started looking, and South Dakota's gotten way more difficult. Nebraska was sold out, by the time he even considered it. So I looked at Iowa to see if there were some leftover tags. And this was a couple weeks ago.
Uh-huh.
Uh, and there were 3 of them in the state. And it was for the first season, which is a Monday through Thursday, which overlaps with the Minnesota opener when I'm taking my daughters. So I'm like, that's out. And I'm like, oh, maybe I'll look at Missouri. Missouri's kind of always a sort of a standby state for turkeys in the spring, lots of public land in the northern part.
Sure.
And I just happened to notice that the tags there now are $305 and they only let non-residents shoot one bird. So residents pay $19.50 and they can shoot 2.
Yeah.
Non-residents pay 305 and they can shoot one. And in Missouri, you can only hunt till 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
And which has always been sort of the thing. I've hunted turkeys down there a whole bunch, but it's always been the thing where I'm like, I don't like going there specifically for that, because then you have half a day unless you want to haul the boat down or, go scout or whatever, which you always end up doing.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, man, it's just not, to me, that's not worth it to
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you start looking at this stuff and then you're like, okay, well, we got Wisconsin and the leftover tags will come up there, but you'll never get a, first or second season tag generally as a non-resident. So you're looking at sometime in May. And I'm like, man, that trend, that Western license trend thing that I've been bitching about forever
Mm-hmm.
has, we've seen it in the whitetail space. It hit, it's hitting relatively hard. And now you're seeing that bleed down to turkeys. And, part of the turkey thing is the populations aren't what they were 10 years ago in a lot of places, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not like if the turkey population rebounds, it's not like they're going to reduce those prices or offer up more of them.
Yeah.
Like
Oh no.
typically it goes away, it's gone. And
Right.
it's just a warning, man. Like I've been complaining about this a long time, but we're seeing this happen now. And the problem with it is the residents of any one of those states who are mostly never going to travel, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
most of the people who live in X state will probably never go cross state lines to hunt anything. So they
Sure.
don't care. But what I think is going to happen with that is we're going to reduce these opportunities for the people who do travel,
Mm-hmm.
and eventually that same thing is going to come for the people in state, right? Because if you take a guy like me and you're like, I used to hunt 4, 5, 6 states a year, depending on spring, fall, whatever. And then, that's part of my job, whatever. So maybe my buddies are a better example. They'd hunt 1 or 2 states a year outside of Minnesota.
Yeah.
If those guys can't travel anymore and we're hitting the age where they have good jobs and, some disposable income, now they're going to look to spend in state, right?
Yep.
So instead of just hunting grandma's 40 acres, now they're going to be looking for that lease. Now they're going to be offering up some money or something. So we we won't see this. Like, people always think this is like a thing that's going to happen. Just the axe is going to fall. And that's not how it goes. It's just death by 1,000 paper cuts. And so
Mm-hmm.
when we start keeping people out, which we've done a really good job of keeping non-residents out and having them pay a hugely disproportionate amount compared to residents, now we're going to see that eventually start to consume resident opportunities too, I think. And
Mm-hmm.
that's, you know, in the next 10, 20 years, what that looks like, I don't know. But I will highly doubt that my daughters, when they're 25, 30 years old, will travel out of state to hunt for at
Yeah.
least big game, probably turkeys. And that sucks. That's just sad. Like, I don't, I think we're doing such a disservice to ourselves that way, just leaning into that so hard.
Yeah. I've talked about like some of it a lot. It's a it's a giant pain to do the when you and I started talking about Nebraska, we talked about like, oh, it's all over the counter. Like you can hunt mule deers and whitetail on the same tag, and now it's limited. And now for mule deer, you have to draw if you want to hunt in a mule deer management area or whatever. You got to draw a specific tag, and
Right.
you can't just buy preference points there. So everything is harder because every state has different rules for things, and yeah, the cost is going up. And I've talked. It's for me, I get to like, I'll take my vacation. I got some vacation time approved in October, and it's easy for me to get like 4 or 5 days blocks of time but to get like a whole 2 weeks for me to drive out there and drive back or whatever, and actually have time to scout and do the things that I'd really like to just enjoy a hunt. That's not going to happen every single year. Maybe every 2 years I can do that. But and you talked about this I listened to your One Foundations podcast the other day where you're talking about taking dogs out of state and going on bird hunts. Hopefully that never happens for a bird hunt, but I can imagine states that are premier states doing something like that because
It's almost a guarantee. I
yeah.
mean, it I think it'll come for everything. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I think it'll come for the upland opportunities. I mean, it already kind of has in certain areas. I think
Mm-hmm.
it might eventually come for fishing, which
Yeah.
is,
Oh,
which sucks, right? I
yeah.
mean, it's like, but this trend is just not our friend. And the thing that pisses me off the most about it, so you brought up Nebraska and mule deer. Now,
Mm-hmm.
Nebraska is like an okay mule deer state, right? Like you wouldn't
Right.
go there to shoot a 200-inch deer, right? You're
Right.
gonna do something else, but it was an opportunity state.
Mm-hmm.
But they have, uh, I wouldn't call it a fringe population, but they have a smaller population of deer, high demand, whatever. In that case, you can pretty clearly see the connection between it being a resource thing because
Right.
there's, especially with a lot of states getting much like Western states getting much more difficult to get tags in. It's like
Yeah.
that's going to shift pressure instantly to any over the counter opportunity where you can find a mule deer for
Mm-hmm.
sure.
Mm-hmm.
And so I look at that and I go, yeah, that's a resource thing. That doesn't bother me as much when it's something like whitetails
Mm-hmm.
and they're not struggling,
Mm-hmm.
or you have a really solid population of turkeys in whatever state, and I see that, then you go, it's a money grab to pacify the residents. There's nothing you can do when you live out of state, but that like appetite isn't going to go away.
Yeah.
And so right now there's price elasticity, right? Like they can, we'll see what Missouri makes on their turkey tags this year. They'll sell a whole bunch of non-resident tags at $305, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe they'll make up for that, whatever they were selling before. Maybe they won't see it for 5 years or 10 years. I
Mm-hmm.
would assume eventually these states will start seeing that, and then they'll start
Mm-hmm.
raising prices on residents because you're just going to have to.
Right.
And I just wonder also if this will feed the outfitter situation in a lot of states, right? Like I wonder if this movement where you can't just go buy a tag, or now you might be 5-6 years in a preference point game to get a tag that, it's not like a premier tag, it's just to get a tag in a state. Now I wonder if there'll be like outfitter carve outs, if we'll start to see more land get gobbled up by that, because the big money people out of state are still going to try to find a way to, if they want to go hunt Iowa or they want to go hunt Kansas or somewhere, if there's enough money thrown that way, they'll figure it out. And
Yeah.
so who's going to lose there? Like the
Mm-hmm.
average hunter, right?
Yep.
Like the
Yep.
average weekend warrior who wants to go hunt with his kids and wherever, it's going to get harder for them too, even if they live in that state. And I
Yeah.
think that's just dangerous ground.
I think there's some things that might make sense initially that can kind of change. Like there's states that have elk populations and an elk draw. I think Nebraska has one,
Mm-hmm.
and the Dakotas, like it's all like residents only, but it's a very limited resource, right?
Right.
Like even in PA, we give out 160 tags for elk every year or something like that. And they only want to keep the elk population under 2,500, but we
Right.
still allow 10% of the tags go to non-residents. I don't think it's the non-resident thing has quite the uh the exclusion that Western states do, because it's still not very expensive to buy
Right.
tags in any state in the East. And pretty much any state doesn't really have a draw like PA has the elk draw. But as far as I know, there's not a whole lot of states that have a draw like that. But it's probably something that will eventually migrate this way. Um, the price for an Ohio tag has gone up, and um, it's hard to find places there because people lease it up unless you're hunting like a real big wood setting that's, you know, not very easy to hunt. But it is kind of a scary thing. And like you said, I don't know if it's happening for us, but we, we talked about this, like you and I talked about this kind of stuff 6 years ago, where it's like, man, you got all this opportunity. You can buy a point here, buy a point there. You can hunt over the counter here. And it's already way harder to do that. Like it's it's
Yeah, people,
it's crazy.
most people don't know. I mean,
Mhm.
most people don't realize how much things have tightened up
Uh-huh.
in the last 10-15 years.
Yeah.
And your example of
Mhm.
the Pennsylvania elk thing there, and the non-resident prices and availability, that the elk thing, those little kind of transplant plant populations that people
Yeah.
have or states have, I mean,
Uh-huh.
that's one thing.
Yeah.
But when you look at a state like PA or Michigan, wherever, like a lot of eastern states, a lot of southern states have really solid whitetail populations,
Uh-huh.
right? And so you look at that and go, well, that's sort of a mainstay. That's why Wisconsin charges $200 for a non-resident tag and not 600 like Iowa, to
Right.
some extent, right?
Uh-huh.
But eventually, these state game agencies are going to have to backfill this revenue loss over the traditional rifle camp things kind of going away in a lot of places.
Mm-hmm.
And, this is sort of slow burn stuff on any given season, but you look at the trends over, a decade, that they're going to have to figure out how to make that money, right?
Yeah.
Like, and it
Yeah.
make that money back and sort of backstop that whole situation. I don't know where that goes. I mean, the easiest solution, the easiest lever they have to pull is the non-resident tag and raise the prices because the residents cheer it on. They don't bitch. The non-residents don't have a say, and we've set this precedent across the country that this is what we're going to do. But in the long run, it does not make me feel good about our future. Like
Yeah.
I don't see how it ends up. I don't see how it doesn't end up as just generally a net loss for all hunters.
Yeah. Um, as far as leasing goes, why do you think that affects, well, why do you think it affects the average hunter? Because it used to be pretty easy to go ask permission in some places. And it's not something I do often because I don't like to try to maintain permission. And, you got to buy 18 gift cards for the 18 landowners that you hunted or whatever. But what do you think that has a big impact on people that maybe want an easy hunt where they can just get off their couch and go drive down the road to the back 40 that somebody let them hunt?
I mean, leasing doesn't really bother me because it's
Mm-hmm.
just sort of and I don't have a lease. I've actually never had a lease. I
Yeah.
have a lot of buddies who have, um, but I can't fault a landowner. There's some dairy farmer who used to let a bunch of people in and the gates get left open and all that stuff. And then all of a sudden he has a chance to, pay his property tax every year or whatever and know who's going to be there, set the rules ahead of time and sort of, make money and offshore that responsibility. I don't
Mm-hmm.
blame private landowners for that. I
Yeah.
just, again, it's just one of those trends where it's like white, I mean, whitetail hunting, it's very easy to see this. You see this with Western hunting too, obviously, but money is the answer to most of your problems, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you want to kill giant deer, you can either really, really work hard,
Yeah.
really work hard, and you might in a couple in your lifetime, or if you have money,
Mm-hmm.
it's a different situation.
Mm-hmm.
And the leasing thing is a component of that, but it solves a problem for a lot of people. It's also, so it can be a good thing, but it can also be part of a trend where like people like to complain all the time that hunting's becoming a rich man sport. I'm like,
Uh-huh.
well, right. And part of the reason that's happening is because we have fewer and fewer opportunities we can go now. So we'll dump more money into the ones that are still left. So
Right.
it's not just, some dude who started a company and sold it for $100 million who's leasing up or buying up a bunch of land. It's like that is trickling all the way down
Mm-hmm.
and we are trying to get our little whitetail piece, right? Like we want our hands on something we can manage. And part of that comes from the industry too, because we've presented this image for so long that if you want to kill big ones, you manage a property.
Yeah.
And here's how you do it. And when you're managing a property, it doesn't make any sense to let anybody else in there, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
if you want the easiest whitetails you can kill, you get your hands on some land and you keep everyone else out. And
Yeah.
that is a way to do it. It is a legitimate way to do it. But that trend causes people to spend more money on it because they're like, well, this is how I solve for this. I can't kill big bucks now, and I want to.
Yeah.
And so it's another thing where it just increases demand for that property or those
Yeah.
properties.
Yeah, I see it here with there's a waterfowl production area near here, and there's not in PA there's not a lot of water. Like we have all these little lakes, like 50 to maybe 1,500 acres, not a whole bunch of giant lakes. And there is one small lake that's got like a propagation area, and it's one of the biggest snow goose corridors for the East Coast. And it is, from what I've understood, I've never actually tried to lease anything for waterfowl, but from what I understand, it's like a bidding war for these leases near that waterfowl production area for that reason. And it is that way. Like they dig their pit blinds and, no one else is allowed. There's no permission given. They even won't let deer people on those places because they want to, they want to save it
Right.
for goose hunting and stuff like that. But it is, it is kind of like you said, like the economy sucks now. So it does make a lot of sense for landowners. So it could be something, you could, some of the states have good programs a lot of the Western states have those I think every state has something like that to some extent where they have like a walk-in type access where you should really ask permission, but you don't really have, it's kind of courtesy or whatever. But those are things that we just need to take care of. If it's there, take care of it.
Right.
The landowner goes out there and sees you're goose hunting on his field and there's 5 boxes of empty shells laying on the ground. It's not pretty.
Right. Yeah, that demand for, you know, primo waterfall spots is wild.
It is
You
real
see that
wild.
stuff down south? I mean,
Yeah.
that's not a world. I mean, I duck hunt, but it's not a world I've ever played in, but I know people who are heavy into it, and it
Hmm.
is crazy.
Yeah. I've known people to rent or to lease like a 10-acre field for $1,200, and that was 10 years ago. Now it's probably like $3,000. I can't imagine it's any less.
Right.
Um, do you, what about, since your involvement at Meat Eater, I know that you know a lot about the subject, and this past year has been crazy in the battle to sell public lands off and all this negative stuff. And now we're, changing all these regulations for the boundary waters. Uh, what do you think are the real big threats as far as that goes, either politically or just in reality?
Man, so if you if you look at when Mike Lee down in Utah decided he wanted to try to sell off however 3 million or whatever that was, you
Mm-hmm.
know, when everybody went nuts and the hunting community largely mobilized, called him up, everybody left a message, you saw it all over social media, and it worked.
Mm-hmm.
The reason that worked is because there's enough of us,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like the reason that worked is because there were enough people, because the hunting community is generally apathetic about this stuff, or historically has been. It feels like things have changed a lot now because the
Yeah.
information is so easy to get, and you
Yeah.
kind of get beat over the head with it. I mean, everybody, it seems like most people who follow Meat Eater, follow Outdoor Life, follow Field and Stream, follow Sam Soholt and whoever else who's banging the drum, right? And so it's easy to get that information.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but you still need a lot of people, right? I don't
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what percentage of people you have to touch with that message for one of them to go do something about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's easy to give a like and it's easy to give a comment and be like, oh, thanks for the fight, but like just that extra step of making the phone call or sending the email.
Yeah.
And my thing, I worry about this on two fronts. I worry about recruitment. I worry about us not having enough people eventually to fight that fight,
Yeah.
right? Like, and to Hunter's credit, which is pretty incredible, I think, when somebody in a Western state that most people will never hunt, most
Mm-hmm.
people will never travel to Utah, or most people will never travel to whatever state, when you can fire up dudes in Georgia and PA and everywhere else to be like, nope, we do not want this precedent. We do not want this leaking across the state.
Mm-hmm.
That's incredible, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you need enough people. And so that's the thing that worries me most about. There's sort of a counterculture movement out there to like, we don't need R3, we don't need more people, everything's too crowded already. I'm like, hold on. Like we are also losing people in this kind of hunter is going away. The guy
Mm-hmm.
who wants to travel and shoot elk, he's not.
Yep.
He's still there, he's getting all the information. So there's like this sort of like recency bias with this stuff, or the exposure bias maybe, where we're like, oh well, my trailhead is full of non-resident elk hunters, so this sucks and I want it all gone.
Yeah.
And yet you can go to northern Michigan and see that the traditional rifle camp thing is not what it was 10 or
Yeah.
20 years ago. And without numbers, we don't have it.
Yeah.
Like we have to have people who care, right?
Yeah.
The other thing that I worry about with that is just people getting burned out on being preached to. Like
Mm-hmm.
I look at, we got Cal and Mark and some of these guys who are really, really good at staying on top of these issues. I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to beat people over the head with it. I
Yeah.
want people to love hunting and love public land. Like
Yeah.
I want everybody who I speak to, even if they're like, I have my lease for whitetails and this is what I do, and I'm not going to hunt public land or whatever. I'm like, that's fine. You probably fish public water, or
Mm-hmm.
you might go do one weekend a year chasing roosters somewhere on public land or something like. And even if you don't, even if you're like, I have this lease and this is all I want to do, I don't care about anything else. I want to kill big deer and I want to name them and all that stuff. Like, you have to understand that because you lock that up, somebody is looking for a place to hunt somewhere else,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And so, like, there's value in us just kind of being like, all right, like, I understand what this is for us. But when people get sick of getting preached to and people make everything political,
Yeah.
I worry that eventually they'll be like, I don't care. Like, I
Yeah.
don't care if you guys out west lose your opportunities. You guys have been telling me not to come out here and hunt for years. Fine. Deal with your politicians who want to sell it. Like, that's the stuff that scares me, because I could see that creeping into our world. And when
Yeah.
that happens, like, I mean, I got into an argument with Steve one time on the Meat Eater podcast when Kansas banned trail cameras on public land.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, I don't care. Like,
Mm-hmm.
they want to take that away. And I'm like, because it doesn't affect you. But
Mm-hmm.
what if you live in Kansas, you love to deer hunt, you can't afford the lease, everything's bought up, or you're in a place with, you're just going to not knock on a door and get permission. And you
Mm-hmm.
want to do the whole whitetail thing. And now somebody who doesn't care about you says you can't use this tool that's not giving you like a gigantic advantage. It's
Right.
giving you an advantage, but it's mostly just a fun thing to do.
Sure.
And it keeps you kind of in the game and keeps you excited. That stuff worries me, because
Yeah.
I don't want to be the guy, like, literally speaking out of my ass being like, I don't, you don't need this where you live. Like, how
Yeah.
do I know?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I remember I wrote a piece years ago when I was the whitetail columnist at Outdoor News,
Mm-hmm.
and I wrote about how many deer we eat in a year as a family.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a guy write in a letter then uh, saying that nobody needs that many deer. And I can't remember how many I said. I think I said 5 or something. And I just remember thinking, like, I would never be like, oh, your family goes through 9 gallons of orange juice a year? Are you kidding
Mm-hmm.
me?
Yeah.
Nobody needs more than 5.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's how we look at stuff, and it's just dangerous.
Well, yeah, and it's also looking at the way people live. Like, when I have deer in the freezer, we don't buy beef ever.
Right.
And nobody prefers it. And in fact, when we when we run out of deer, we end up getting like ground turkey because it's the closest thing to deer that you'll get, you know. But I think uh something that you're saying too is people can benefit. I like what you're saying about, there's a few things. I like what you're saying about not being preachy, because that's kind of with everything. If you don't want to drive people nuts and have them eventually be on overload where they ignore it, you can't beat them over the head with it either. And I think the trail camera example thing that you talked about is like a pretty hot topic still, not just trail cameras, but there's other things coming out that we do have to be careful with. But then it also comes with how the people are looking to use the technology, or if they have. Most of the people, like you said, really, maybe people are making these regulations about trail cameras, never even used one, and know that it is only a small advantage. And really, it is just a fun activity that gets me out in the whitetail woods in the summertime. There are things that I think they should be careful about and have stricter regulations on, like thermal drones are a giant thing right now.
Right.
Do you see there's like a bow sight that's a thermal bow sight that's good for low light situation? Like, that stuff I think needs to be kind of gone over with a fine tooth comb before it gets enacted on. I think thermal stuff is really great for whitetail research, but for scouting your property or using it during the hunting season, I don't know, like, I don't use them.
Right.
I haven't gone out to use them to see if it is like a giant advantage. I would assume that it is.
Right.
That's kind of a different thing, you
Well,
know?
right. And that's a good point too. When the cell cameras started getting big, I mean, the question was always like, is it fair chase?
Sure.
Right. And I look at it, and it's crazy because I don't, I use them on some private places. Right. And we did this big Nebraska hunt this past year,
Mm-hmm.
with Steve and one of his buddies. And I, I, I use trail cameras more for that hunt than I ever have. Like, that was
Mm-hmm.
like my primary scouting tool for that entire hunt.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a huge advantage. I mean, literally, this property was like 400 and some miles from my house.
Yeah.
and I had spent very few days on it.
Yeah.
But being able to, run a whole bunch of trail cameras on there was a huge advantage. I knew exactly where we were going to kill deer. I just
Yeah.
did because I had tabs on them, and there were very nice pinch points on that place. Like there were places where they were just going to go. But then I look at some of my stuff like in northern Wisconsin, and I'm like, I could set fire to every trail camera I have over there and it wouldn't change. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and so I look at that stuff and I go, man, it is incredibly nuanced, but there is no doubt that in certain situations, that technology is an enormous advantage,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
the drone thing, that can of worms sucks. I mean,
Yeah.
we film with drones a lot, for our shows, even the deer research thing. And I know it's super cool. Like I know that it is super cool what's happening there, but I think I'm getting old enough where I just look at it and I go, we don't need to know everything.
Yeah.
Like I watched a video the other day. I saw a video on my Instagram feed of a dude, I'm assuming down south somewhere, who was using live scope for fishing, and he had a cast net and a big cat, like a 12-foot cast net, a big one. And he had found a school of catfish like 30 feet down in this wintering hole on live scope, and you can see them, and he throws that cast net and you can watch that sucker sinking through the water column
Oh
and
man.
pulls it up, and it's just a nightmare. It's full of 3-pound cats or whatever,
Yeah.
and you just look at it and go, our natural reaction to a lot of this stuff is to be like, I don't want that,
Yep.
but it's already here.
Yep.
Just like the crossbow thing, right? Like the big problem we have with all of this stuff is we are just evolutionarily programmed for easy. Like we are always looking at the easiest way to procure whatever we want, which is like a thing that you fight constantly, right? Like the reason that it feels good to go for a run is because it's not something you can have easy. You can't take a pill and do that for yourself.
Yep.
Like you can't do it. So you have to put in the work
Yep.
to make that happen.
Yep.
And so all of this stuff, when you look at this technology that's creeping in, honestly, I like when they jump on it early.
Yeah.
And start to, like, right out of the gate, start to question it, go like, is this going to impact the resource? Because once it sort of becomes ubiquitous across, hunters, like when cell cameras first started coming out, it would have been very easy to be like, there's no way like the average rifle hunter who puts 2 days a year in is going to buy one of these and use it.
Yeah.
Everyone has one. You know what I mean? And it's the same thing. Like when you see, I don't know, Raven crossbows come out, and their stuff's like straight out of the future, right? Like it's crazy effective. And you're like, no way people are going to spend $2,500 on a crossbow that looks like that and go shoot deer. It's like, yeah, dude, they're absolutely going to do that. And so it's scary, like how far does it go?
Yeah. Well, and the other problem is once that technology is out and other people get their hands on it, it just gets cheaper and cheaper and easier to get. That's like cell cams now. The average guy is only running cell cams. Right. I like SD card cameras because I like walking in the woods and like an excuse to make me go do it, But and some places you still can't run cell cams, but it's crazy because you'll go out now and you will get in an area where somebody is definitely hunting and there'll be 20 cell cams. And they're paying like a giant data fee for all this stuff or whatever. So now even the data plans are getting cheaper because, if they can get, maybe they can't charge somebody $100 for their unlimited plan for as many cameras as you want. But if they can charge 50 and they can get 50 people to do it instead of 2, like, hey, it's making money, and and then like I said, the competition only gets cheaper because people want a cheaper product so they can have more of it. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I mean, you're absolutely right. I think when you look at cell cameras, when you look at crossbows, you look at some of this stuff, drones, I'd put in a different category.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right now, the thought process, it's very easy to default and be like, that's too easy. Right? Like that's a thing, that's an advantage that's too far, right? Like when we only had trad bows and the first dude throws a wheel on one.
Yeah.
Huge fight, right?
Hmm.
And understandably so. But I'm starting to think that some of this stuff it will provide some of the ways in which people lean on this stuff provides a guy like me an advantage.
Hmm.
So I'll give you an example. A couple years ago, I hunted a chunk of public in North Dakota. Went in, filmed a show there, showed up. Obviously I don't have any cameras there. I had hunted it one other time, killed a buck in there 5 years earlier. Just a classic rut funnel pinch point type property. We go up there and we have a blizzard come in, like right as the pre-rut's kicking in, end of October. Just
Hmm.
like, okay, you're giving me exactly what I need. Like the weather's like, you're gonna put in your time and you will kill one, because this is what is going to trigger all of this movement. And so we go out and walk through this property, and it's North Dakota, so there's only 25 trees on the whole half section,
Yeah.
but there are cell cameras everywhere.
Hmm.
I mean, I saw more cameras on that, and part of that is because they're so visible in a place like that, because there aren't that many places to hang them. So
Sure.
you're getting sort of a skewed view, probably.
Hmm.
But I'm also hunting public land, and I'm like, where is everybody? We had
Hmm.
one guy walk in on us super late one evening, and he saw us and he left, and it was great. But I'm like, are people sitting here waiting for these cameras to show them these daylight movers, and they're not going out even though it's like October 30th and there's snow on the ground and it's cold? And
Yes.
so, right.
Yes.
And so, like, I feel the same way. This is partially, again, probably because of visibility, but when I've hunted Oklahoma, Oklahoma's had crossbows, legal crossbows, for a long time.
Hmm.
One of the earlier states to do it.
Hmm.
And it is, I can see 20 hunters on a trip down there, because you see a lot of hunters.
Yeah.
18 of them carry crossbows. They
Yeah.
just do. And then you
Yeah.
walk around and you're like, okay, here's a 6-foot ladder stand on the edge of this state planted food plot on this property. You're like, that's a crossbow stand, right?
Hmm.
And then you go out and there'll be like a little tailgate chair, camp chair on the ground with some mesh netting around it. And you're like, there's no way that's a vertical bow hunter. No way,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then, you'll just be walking out in the morning to go to the truck to go scout a spot or something. And you look across the field and here's this black crossbow poking out of the yellow grass. And again, so there's the component of that being that weapon maybe causing more pressure generally, because people are going to go more, maybe people are going to walk around more. So
Hmm.
there is that aspect of it, but it's also this kind of thing people look at and they go, I don't have to work that hard because now I have this.
Yeah.
And I always look at that and I go, if you want to get a crossbow, great. But if you crossbow hunt like a gun hunter, like a typical gun hunter, you're not going to do very well. But if you
Yeah.
crossbow hunt like a typical bow hunter, you're going to crush it.
Yeah.
And so you see people kind of, they look at this stuff and they go, this is my answer, right? Like everybody says, put out a bunch of cell cameras and don't go in there until you're getting that buck moving in daylight. I'm like, you're on public land, man. Like
Hmm.
you have an entire, this wild card factor there. And also, did you forget that it's end of October in the upper Midwest and
Yeah.
you had a super cold front come in? Of course they're going
Yeah.
to be moving,
Yeah.
but so in some ways it's like, use it with caution.
Yeah. Well, and it's easy because I wonder how many guys, because how many times have you been there where you're like, either you got busted or you missed or you made a bad shot where you're like, man, I wish I had a crossbow for that. You know what I mean? Like, and like, I don't actually wish that, but if you have those thoughts where you're like, man, it could have been easier. Or how many guys do you think actually quit vertical bow hunting because they got tired of getting busted or they missed or they couldn't, if it was 10 yards closer, they could have shot it with a vertical bow. But if they had a crossbow, they could have. I've had friends reach out and be like, man, I'm buying a crossbow next year. I'm like, don't do it. You know?
But I'll tell you what, uh, when they legalized crossbows in Minnesota for everybody,
Mm-hmm.
some of the people in my little circle, I was like, they will instantly buy a crossbow.
Yeah.
And some
Yeah.
of them, I was like, they never will. And I was right about the instant ones, and I was wrong about some of my buddies. Like they instantly went to it. And
Hmm.
it's like, I, it's easy to be sort of a prick about that, right? Like it's easy to be judgy about that.
Yeah.
But some people don't want to work their asses off. Like they leave their job and taking the kids to and from whatever, and they're like, I don't want to turn whitetail hunting into this guerrilla warfare thing. Like I want to go climb into my box blind, and if that deer comes into my scrape tree at 40 yards, I want to lace them with a crossbow and be happy.
Yeah.
And it's tough, right? Because
Yeah.
it's easy to look at that and be like, you're not doing that right. It's like, I don't know, like who cares? But
Yeah.
again, is it a resource thing?
Right.
And this is the thing with a lot of this stuff. And I used to be, I feel like I used to look at this stuff differently, where it was sort of black or white to me, right?
Hmm.
Like you're
Hmm.
either this or you're that. And then, now I'm like, I personally don't have any desire to hunt with a crossbow. We
Hmm.
own a couple because of my daughters. I mean,
Yeah.
if I blew a shoulder out, I would, because I'm
Right.
going to hunt, like I'm not
Yeah.
going to take this, I'm not going to die on that hill, right? Like if I can't draw a bow and I got to do this, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
But I also look at the fact that like I was adamantly opposed to crossbows. And I still,
Hmm.
if I could wave a magic wand and they would go away, I'm like, maybe I would, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
but they provided an opportunity for me to take my daughters out in a way that
Yeah.
I just never would have had any other way.
Hmm.
And I wouldn't trade that time. They certainly wouldn't. And so it's like, again, this stuff is super nuanced because
Yeah.
you can hate it outwardly. And I get that. If
Yeah.
it's impacting the resource, especially, like that's a big deal. But if it's just because you do it one way and you don't want to do it another way, it gets a lot more muddy with that stuff.
Yeah. Well, and on the topic of public land, just like you said, maybe it's a person that doesn't like, maybe I know plenty of doctors who don't really advertise that they hunt or fish, because they do it casually, or they do it for like they're the weekend, like I got a Saturday off and I'd like to go fishing or hunting or whatever. And that kind of stuff is like, I kind of would get it for somebody like that. Like they
Right.
want their best opportunity. They haven't had time to practice with a bow, or, um, when it comes back to not beating somebody over the head, people who don't hunt can benefit from the public land as well. Like I don't really know anybody who's like, man, I wish that that big woods mountain right there would be covered in development so I could,
Right.
look at that every day on my way to work or whatever it happens to be. Um but you kind of see that a lot is like maybe it's somebody who's not a diehard like we are. They're just kind of a dabbler and they think it's something fun to do every now and then, but they wouldn't care if it went away.
Right.
Those are the people that can help make a difference too, if it's pitched to them right. Like, hey, like, yeah, you know,
Right. Well, and those people outnumber us by a lot.
yes.
I mean, that's the we sort of live in this little echo chamber of people who their identity is literally like, I love hunting whitetails more than anything in the world, or I love
Hmm.
being outdoors hunting and fishing, blood sports, whatever, more than anything in the world. But most of our ranks, most
Yeah.
of the people, they're not like that. Like
Yeah.
they don't care that much. It's a thing to do, that one week in November when it's the gun season's open, or if you get a couple of cold spells in late October to go sit on a stand or whatever.
Yeah.
Those people vastly outnumber the, saddle up, hang and bang, public land crowd, the
Hmm.
guys that we're exposed to all the time.
Yeah.
And it is a super important consideration because we
Yeah.
need them.
Yeah. Well, it's even crazy how many people are diehards, but don't know, like, they don't see the same things because your algorithm didn't share it. So
Right.
they are getting shown the top end media hunt that's got a food plot. And I've podcasted with a lot of those people where you're like, oh, have you heard of name a famous whitetail public land deer hunter that uses a saddle and a trad bow or something? And they're like, no. They're like, what? I thought everybody knew that person. You know what I
Right.
mean? And they're like, oh, it sounds cool. I'll check it out. And they're still like on Lee and Tiffany. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I love Lee and Tiffany. They're nice people. I've seen them at the sportsman shows and stuff like that. they bring something to hunting, but there's so many people that bring something to hunting, and so many people don't know about this part of it, you know?
Right.
So if you're talking about you mentioned your daughters, and we're talking a lot about access and land, and maybe that's the American foundation for hunting, but participation is obviously the fuel that keeps all that going. So you're talking about your daughters. You talk about your daughters so much, and um, I think when we met, they were like 8 or 9 years old, and you've turned them into like just these lovers of all the things. Like whenever you send me a picture, like your daughter shot a bear last year, or I think it was last year, right?
2 years
Uh,
ago.
2 years ago, and like it's so cool to see them come up in that atmosphere and be kind of engrossed with it and love it. But because of hunter recruitment and declining numbers, tell me your thoughts about bringing more ladies into hunting and how that might kind of launch things forward.
Man, I mean, even back in my bow hunter magazine, bow hunter TV days, we were trying to solve for that problem,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, I don't know what the breakdown is now, uh, but we were talking to like 98% men and 2% women,
Mm-hmm.
and that's definitely shifted now for sure. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
what the breakdown is, but I think that is the thing that could save us, or
Yeah.
at least keep this going longer than it will. Because if it's up to just us dudes and our egos, we will kick everyone out to have hunting for ourselves. Like
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
can't help it. We want the grip and grin. We want to trophy hunt, and we want to do these things that like just stand alone can be okay, but they often lead to the behaviors that we see that suck. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, would they often lead to the things where we're like, we're going to gatekeep this thing because it's for me and I want it as easy as possible? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you can go back to the non-resident resident fight, and when that when kicking non-residents out became the like de facto thing to say, right? It's like that's the best way to make my state better. You never hear somebody say, "Oh, there's more people hunting here, so I'm going to scout harder."
Yeah.
Like, I'm not like, you're not going to use your home field advantage in any way. Like, you're only concerned with this because that's an easy thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, that's like the keyboard warrior thing. Like, it's an easy thing to be like, I kicked that guy out, now I'll have more land to myself.
Yeah.
I can promise you most of the people who advocated for that don't have much better hunting now, because there's
Yeah.
still the personal aspect of it,
Yeah.
with the women in the outdoors thing. I think I think we need that in a major way. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
honestly kind of shocked, where we live in the suburbs of the Twin Cities, right? Hate it. But when I talk to like the girls on my daughter's basketball team, or they'll have like a friend over, the amount of 8th grade girls here who hunt is incredible. And I
Mm-hmm.
promise you that you wouldn't have found that 10 or 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And so, we're giving girls the opportunities we always gave boys.
Mm-hmm.
And now that's sort of leveling out. Are they going to stick with it? Like, is this a thing that's going to stay and
Yeah.
become a bigger, like lane in this thing? I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think it's incredible. And I think that's probably the best way, that between that and like walk-in programs in states that try to open up more land to public hunting, because we always need more land, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we've demonstrated we'll pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
That is a huge component, and I think us leaning into this side of things where women want to be a part of it is
Mm-hmm.
going to be huge. And it's
Yeah.
tough, right? Because it's, whether people want to like really acknowledge this or not, the the business side of the outdoors, of the hunting industry,
Mm-hmm.
literally the hunting industry,
Mm-hmm.
is driven by making money. And you're
Mm-hmm.
not going to speak to 2% when you can speak to 98%.
Right.
You're not going to put a bunch of R&D money into making really badass women's clothing when you're only going to sell 1,000th of what you'd sell to dudes. And
Sure.
so that has been a huge problem, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
that has been a huge problem, because you know how it is. Like, we sell hunting clothes, right? Like, there are a lot of things you can go buy that might make your hunt better, right? Like, you might buy that DSD decoy and it might help you, right?
Yeah.
But if you buy good clothes, you're
Mm-hmm.
generally going to have a better experience.
Yeah.
Like you just are, whether you're up
Yeah.
north or down south or whatever, like the clothing that's like really well designed for that pursuit
Mm-hmm.
keeps you out there, keeps you comfortable. It's just like sort of a cheat code to enjoying it more. And if right away when you're coming into this and you're a woman and you can't get that very well, you like that's a big hurdle to get over. You know, it's like what
Mm-hmm.
we did when I started deer hunting. Like we didn't even, you know, there was no Sitka first light. Like even if there
Nah.
was, we would have never in a million years had it. You know,
Nope.
like just no way. So you're piecing together like a Walmart sweatshirt and like whatever
Yeah.
else you could put together for layers. And it was, we froze our asses off. And if you
Yeah.
got wet, you were soaked for the whole trip or whatever. And now we have all this technical hunting gear. It's like, it's a huge advantage, like a huge
Oh.
advantage. But even
Oh
if
yeah.
they have to clear that hurdle just to get in, or that's a thing that they're dealing with, like they're already at a disadvantage. And so I just think like, I think that demographic is incredibly important. Like
Yeah.
I don't know how to solve for it completely, but I think we need to pay attention to that because that could be the thing that keeps us going.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And there's the other thing of like of people are kind of like poo poo it because it's watered down. You know what I mean? Like, oh well, she needed help to get in, like scout this area or stuff. I know plenty of ladies that do their like. I have a good friend. He and his wife hunt. They go to the woods together, and she goes that way, and he goes that way, and then they come back. They talk about what they found, and she has encounters just like he does. You know,
Right.
and I think that kind of gets looked at like if I go read an article or I'm going down the YouTube rabbit hole of like, oh, what thing is hunting things, I'm probably you're right. Like it's still 2%. Like I'm
Right.
I'm probably gonna watch the clickbaity dude thing with a big old buck than the like rather than go, and that's probably wrong. Like that's something that I should change because I should give them my attention too. Um, it's kind of like you go to like an outdoor show and they're all you know, it's like the funny thing. There's booth bunnies, and then there's people that are like hardcore. Like, yeah, I got this. I can out hunt you any day. And the booth bunnies getting the attention, and that girl might get a
Right.
few people that are like, oh yeah, I see what this person has to offer. We need to give those people attention because they're people that matter.
Well, so yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's been a very easy way for women to get attention in the hunting industry for a long time because it's
Mm-hmm.
an entirely male dominated thing. Like
Yeah.
that's one thing, right? But you know, when you say, you know, you know, oh well, she doesn't really count because she's getting help from her husband or whatever. I'm like,
Yeah.
man, I encounter hundreds of dudes every year who need as much help as they can get, and they're not shy about asking for it.
Yes.
And that's so that is a big problem,
Mm-hmm.
right? Where we look at this works against hunters so much where,
Mm-hmm.
and I actually see this with women a lot, like dudes who get their wives involved and they want to hunt, they come out and they want a trophy hunt right away too. And it's like, you don't know
Mm-hmm.
anything, but you're just like the 23-year-old dude I encounter at the Deer Classic or whatever, who's like 170s or bust. And I'm like, you're just a child, buddy. Like you don't
Yeah.
know anything about this yet. And there's a lot of unrealistic uh people in our ranks, and part of that is because of how that information has trickled down, right? Like we are fed, it's been different in the last 10 years, but we have been conditioned to watch people who have this stuff down to a science,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't talk about the advantages they have. And that
Mm-hmm.
sucks because
Mm-hmm.
it presents this view of like, well, if you just put in this food plot and you sit there on November 1st, that 170 inches is going to come in. Or now, I mean, it's like 200 inches is like the thing.
Yeah.
And you're like, what?
That's the
Like
yeah.
that's a deer that doesn't even exist almost everywhere,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And so we feed that like kind of trophy hunting thing so hard, it trickles down, and we're not like, hey, go learn this at your own pace. Like it's literally okay for you to go shoot a spike on public land. Like I talked to a guy here very recently in the gym. He was lifting with his wife next to me, and she had a Silencer Central shirt on. And like,
Mhm.
I don't ever see a woman in the suburbs who has a suppressor
Yeah.
company. I'm like, I know these people. Like, so anyway,
Yeah.
we started BSing. Super nice. I think they had 4 little kids. They said heavy lift, family wise. And he mentioned that he had bought his first bow last season, and he was hunting public land around here. And I said, "Did you get one?" He said, "No, I passed up some spikers, but I'm not going to shoot a spiker. I want something bigger." And I'm like, "Your first season bow hunting on public land in the Twin Cities, and you're already looking at it this way." And look, it's his tag, right? But
Mhm.
that mentality, I go, you may never kill one. Like, you might do this for 10 or 20 years here, and you might never get that deer that you
Mhm.
you think is like good enough. And I think that that's kind of a problem.
Yeah.
Like, I think that we just generally default to that is a
Mhm.
problem, because we should be spreading the message like it doesn't really matter. It's like,
Yeah.
it's not that special to kill big bucks anymore.
No.
For you know,
Dude, I remember how we met, and I messaged you about the deer that I killed on public, and you were like, "Oh, dude, tell me the story. Like, let's hear the story." And I was like, I remember thinking back then, I think I would think I was 25 or 26, and I'm 38 now. So it was a while ago. No, it can't have been that long. Anyway, long story short, I remember you being like, "Yeah, big bucks are cool, but make sure you have fun." Like, and that's something that you always preach to me. And I'm like, you know what? He's right. And I always keep that piece of advice with me, like making sure it's fun. And because I forgot about things that I loved when I was a kid. Like, I stopped fishing for panfish because I was like, "Oh, bass is it." Like, I can only fish for big bass, and I can only scout for big bucks. Like, obviously I'm going to try to kill a big buck. Like, I'm going to go in the woods. I'm going to do everything I can to scout and have fun scouting, and finding big bucks is a lot of fun. But I I end up being an opportunist now because I like shooting deer. I like filling tags. I like having a full freezer. And then I like to go hunt with my dog. I like to, if I have the opportunity, I live an hour away from a different state that I can hunt bears and deer. And, I can go to
yep,
New Jersey and hunt bears for a week with my bow. And if I am so caught up in only killing a big buck, then I don't get to do any of that other stuff. And I spend a whole entire season of frustration, and maybe I get lucky and I shoot a real good one or whatever. And that's great too, but I could have had a lot more fun all season long, and and really just enjoyed it. Not that I never enjoy the seasons where I've tried to kill a big buck. Those are a, you know, there's a time and a place, but man, I love getting all the experiences. And that's something that you've taught me that I'll always take with me. But like this year, I killed a little buck, man. I it was so fun. I found
right,
this little tiny spot that was uh I don't want to describe the spot too much because it's a it's a very easy spot, but I found a cool little spot, and my wife walked in there. She's like, "You should probably like investigate this more and like see what's coming through there. Let's hang a camera there and like check that camera, and we'll see what's hanging there." And taking drives with her, and that was fun, man. And it was the second sitting there, and that deer came in the morning, 2 minutes after legal light. Like, I could barely see because it's just 2 minutes into shooting light, and I made a heart shot, and he ran 20 yards and toppled over. And there is nothing quite like the feeling of a trophy shot rather than the trophy
right.
buck. It's just so cool, but it is something that people forget about because they are so ingrained with shooting a giant buck.
Well, I mean, and for some people that is the most fun,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
But I think for a lot of people, it's not.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about it is, when you sort of try to emulate a style,
Hmm.
right? Like, you could try to emulate the juries, you could try to emulate Andy May, whatever, all ends of the spectrum. You probably start to find the thing that matters to you,
Hmm.
right? Some people, high stress jobs, whatever, going and sitting on that food plot on that redneck is the closest thing to dying and going to heaven, because all the
Hmm.
decisions are made, either they come out or not, and it's great, right?
Yeah.
Some people, like, I am not wired for that. I don't know
Hmm.
why, but I can't not think about new places and just like figuring out new things. Like I don't
Yeah.
know why, but it's like that's my route to it. And I don't care if it's 150s or 87-inch 2-year-olds. Like there's just something to that path that's more important to me than killing giants.
Mm-hmm.
But you find that stuff out, right? Like that, and I think that's the problem. I think what happens to a lot of people is they think they have to do it a certain way, and
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't work mostly, and then it's not fun anymore. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, that's not how to go about it, man. Like you gotta figure out what you like. Some
Mm-hmm.
people some people buy a saddle and a set of lightweight sticks, and they're like, oh my god, I will never go back. Right?
Yeah.
Some people buy a saddle and it's on Facebook Marketplace in 2 months, and it's just, but that's how it goes.
Yeah.
But that's the thing that not only do you have to just like always kind of work to figure out for yourself, but you have to understand that that will change. Like
Mm-hmm.
that will change in your life. And
Mm-hmm.
we don't deal with that very well, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I talk to guys all the time in Minnesota here where Minnesota has the largest population of wolves in the lower 48. We've had wolves forever, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's just a thing in the North Country that we have.
Yeah.
And I will talk to hunters who are like, yeah, we don't see deer anymore because of the wolves, which is for sure true for some people, right? Like when wolves move in, things change. They just
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
But it's also they want to go to the same ladder stand on the same clear cut they've hunted or the same
Mm-hmm.
power line they've hunted and have the hunt that they had, back when the deer population was different. It's like you just don't get that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to be like, I have to do something. I have to keep trying to find this thing that satisfies me. Like
Mm-hmm.
when you get into it, people tell me this all the time, right? Like they're like, I can't run. I hate running. I'm like, everybody hates running. Literally everyone who starts out, especially if you haven't and now you're going to
Mm-hmm.
hate it because it sucks.
Mm-hmm.
But eventually you can learn to either like the entire part of it or how it makes you feel at the end. But if you
Mm-hmm.
only go do a 5K on the
Mm-hmm.
treadmill over and over for a while, you're going to be like, I'm kicking ass and taking name tags because this makes me feel good and I'm looking better and on down the line. But 6 months, a year down the road, you're gonna be like, I am so sick of that. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
give me what I used to get out of it. So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, you better run outside, or you better do the stair climber, or just do something different. We don't
Mm-hmm.
we don't think about that in hunting. Like we don't think about that. We want very, very consistent, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's not what Mother Nature delivers to us unless we very tightly control a property, which most
Yeah.
people don't. So
Yeah.
it's like you have to kind of just be like, I'm going to, try this thing. I see this with Steve all the time. Steve is so stubborn, right? Like, I'm never going to Africa. Africa hunting, stupid. Then he goes to Africa and he's like, Africa's amazing. I can't believe it. And you're like, yeah, no shit, man. Like it's an entire continent of new hunting. Like, what
Yeah.
are you talking about?
Yeah.
And but it's easy to think that stuff, right? Like it's easy
Yeah.
to be like, I would never bow hunt turkeys. Like people say that to me all the time. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. But if you
Mm-hmm.
did, you would literally experience a new kind of turkey hunting. You might love
Mm-hmm.
it, you might hate it, but it would be a thing that's different from what you do. And you
Right.
might, and even if you don't love it, right? Even if you're like, I can't sit in a blind all day long, and you might still learn how to call those suckers right into your decoys. And instead of
Mm-hmm.
killing them when they give you a drive by, like there's still things to take away from it that allow you to sort of just carve your own path. And we,
Yeah.
we offer solutions, right? Do this, kill big bucks. But we
Mm-hmm.
don't talk about whether that's going to mean anything to you or not,
Yeah.
like that process. And that's important.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it's the same thing. The process is important and your own process is important too, because you have like, I love, I'm going to go, speak at a sportsman's club in a couple weeks. A couple people asked me to speak at this thing. And I was like, yeah, sure. I don't think that I don't really have a process for myself because I'll listen to a podcast on this person and this person. I remember back in the day, I'd be like, I have to do it this way or I won't kill a deer. And then you get so frustrated by that because maybe it doesn't work in the area that you're hunting, or maybe the pressure is different on the public. And you add all those things together, you kind of just got to go figure it out. And that's where you end up having the most fun, is
Right.
when you kind of carve your own way in hunting, and like you said, the satisfaction piece is the consistency doesn't make you happy all the time. Like, I've hunted a particular public piece for a while, and this year it was just chock full of people. And I'm like, you know what? This is a good opportunity to step away, and it's so fun. It's so fun when you go back to do, like, oh yeah, I remember how cool it was to find a new spot and, like, oh, there's deer here. And or, whatever it happens to be. I've been spending a lot of time doing the rifle camp thing in the northwest corner of PA, and it's so new, and the adventure is cool, man. Like, it's up there. It's way bigger, and there's always snow, and there's the deer in pockets. Like, you don't see anything for a while, and all of a sudden there's deer, and you figured it out, and it's so fun. It brings you so much more satisfaction to have the fresh perspective and kind of your own way of figuring it out. Like, obviously there's stuff you learn, like,
Right.
uh, you'll learn about pinch points from, it's like, there's definitely stuff that people that talk about this and are influencers in it bring to the table that you can take and add into your thing. But until you actually go out in the woods and walk around and figure it out, you don't really have fun doing it.
Well, dude, totally. And that's, I mean, when you brought up the panfish thing earlier, instead of just being, laser focused on bass, we don't, the deer world especially, we don't give ourselves permission to just have some fun, right?
Yeah.
Like, when was the last time you heard about somebody who picked up their bow and they went and just still hunted through their deer ground, right? Like,
Hmm.
we don't do that, because that would you could blow your target buck out. And then what? Like,
Yeah.
why would you be that stupid? I
Yeah.
mean, in February, uh, early February, I drove down. I was going stir crazy. I needed something to do. So I drove down to southwestern Minnesota, and kind of along the way, I just had some spots where I'm like, I'm going to stop at public here, 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 here. And I'm going to carry my 20 gauge to try to shoot a few bunnies, and I'm going to scout deer,
Hmm.
and maybe find a few roosters, whatever, and find some new spots to hunt roosters for next season. But I was just like, I want to go walk new ground. I'm having a hard time getting the motivation to drive 3-4 hours just to winter scout some public land I'll probably never hunt. But I'm
Yeah.
like, I like rabbit hunting. And so
Yeah.
then I'm like, now I'm like, okay, this is worth it for me. Dude, it was the first time in a month. The first day that I did that, it was the first time in a month where I finished up the day, killed a few bunnies, found some really cool stuff, dropped some waypoints. And I was like, man, I had fun all day today,
Hmm.
all day. I might go deer hunt some of those places. One of them I probably will at some point, because it really got my attention.
Yeah.
But it was just fun. It wasn't like a high pressure thing where you're like, okay, I got to find the rubs. I got to do this. I got to find these pinch points. And I
Yeah.
wasn't even really scouting for a hunt or anything. It's just like, I just wanted to see
Hmm.
this ground. And that kind of stuff gets your wheels turning, man. Like, when you start doing that kind of thing, you start realizing how much is out there that you're just not doing or thinking about. And it changes literally the arc of your outdoor life. And I think it's okay. It's okay to be that, like Andy May driven type of person and be like, I'm going to scout like crazy and do this, and I'm going to figure this individual buck out on public or whatever. Like, that's great. If that speaks to you and you want to go that route, that you will learn a lot about deer and yourself for
Hmm.
sure.
Hmm.
But most people don't have that.
Yeah.
But most people might like to go hunt rabbits with their buddies for a Saturday in
Yeah.
February. And I promise you, when you start doing that stuff, especially if you go into land you would not go into deer hunt, you're like,
Hmm.
I don't care about going in here to hunt cottontails, whatever. Who cares? It's public.
Yeah.
But you would never deer hunt that. You find stuff where you're like, I'm going to hunt this. Just like, I mean, so many of the places that I'm super curious about hunting in the Midwest, out west, getting sorted down south, almost all of them came to be by non-deer methods. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
almost all of them came to me because I was doing something else. I mean, the spot that I spent more time thinking about last season
Hmm.
is a chunk of county land in northern Wisconsin that I've fished. There's a brook trout stream that runs through there. I mean, I've been fishing it a long time. And
Mm-hmm.
I keep finding these crossings. And then this past summer, saw some deer in a hayfield, pretty close proximity to the boundary of this. And dude, I scouted that more, hunted it more than anywhere else. Got my ass kicked. Don't get me wrong. Like I don't know if there's a buck in that place that's over 2.5. I'm not entirely sure yet. I don't really care, but
Yeah.
I had more fun with that place than just about anywhere else I hunted. And this includes a 3,000 acre private ranch in Nebraska,
Yeah.
because that was sort of a foregone conclusion for me. Like, I'm like, man,
Yeah.
this is good enough, right?
Yeah.
But that kind of stuff where you walk in there and to catch some brook trout and you find a crossing, you're like, I'm just going to come back here and take a walk.
Mm-hmm.
It means almost nothing to your success,
Mm-hmm.
like that one piece, right?
Yeah.
But when you're the kind of person who will do that, you find places to kill deer and you
Mm-hmm.
learn about them, and it reshapes how you view it, because that piece of county line is a huge piece, has been there for me since I started hunting over there in like 2008. And I have never even considered it. I've shot grouse in there, woodcock, I've caught fish, and I've never been like, I don't care about deer hunting there. And then now I'm like, this is all I can think about, because I
Yeah.
have to figure this out. And it's another great opportunity. And it won't be a big buck thing, but it could be a really fun process type of thing that if if it takes me 5 years to figure it out, I don't care, because it's
Yeah.
just fun to go do.
Yeah. Yeah, man. It was the same when I hunted New Jersey this year. Oh, I was doing the bow bear thing over there. And that was the same way. Like I remember coming out from an area that I pre-scouted, and I ended up getting bored, and I walked down a fence row, found some arrowheads, thought that was cool. See these deer standing in a soybean field, put a stock on them, checked that back corner out, walked out to my truck, and I'm sitting on the tailgate and I'm eating like a sandwich or a peak refuel or something. And I'm like, this is the part that's really fun. This is the part that's fun. I just walked around. I almost killed a doe just like sneaking behind a fence row, and it came to full draw at 30 yards and broke a stick, and I made that mistake. And it's kind of fun, even
Right.
though I made the mistake, like, oh man, I was almost there, and still thinking about when you just go pick a tree to sit in and being like, man, that first spike buck, he better not get close enough because he can't get it. But it's a fun place to be in the new environment and just really enjoy everything that you can everywhere that you go, and you can just pull it out of the little things. It's it's just something that's really unique to hunting and fishing in general. When we think about all this stuff, we talked a lot about public land and the politics and recruitment and things that we need to care about in hunting and be passionate about in hunting. But for you personally, you have built so many stories, and I love to be a part of them and hear them and stuff like that. But when you look back on your memories, what's something that you really love to look back on?
You know, probably probably the hunts. So I have I have three buddies who I used to hunt with a lot, and I still hunt with them in some capacity. A lot of them now
Mm-hmm.
is pheasant hunting. But
Mm-hmm.
when we used to go to North Dakota and roam the Badlands for spike mule deer and whatever else we could find, those hunts, we did it in South Dakota, we did it in Nebraska. Those hunts with my buddies where it was just we're all going to meet up or drive out together and camp, and just you know somebody always shoots something. You always have a blood trail, you always have something to butcher. Just those things, I miss those, because it's
Mm-hmm.
gotten, and I know there's young dudes who are going to listen to this who can't see this coming, but you start having kids, your job starts to get serious, and
Yeah.
now once your kids hit a certain age, it's like they are totally consumed with activities, and that just totally consumes your family.
Yeah.
That that opportunity to go, for 5 days with your buddies somewhere, that gets a lot harder to find.
Sure.
And there's a there's a time in your life where you're going to have that, and a time in your life where you're not. And maybe you'll arc back around when you start getting some more freedom again. And I hope that's the case with us.
Mm-hmm.
But we didn't know how good we had it.
Yeah.
Like we didn't know. And of course, this is just like hindsight bias, but those trips, like when I look at the pictures from those, when I'm putting together an article or something,
Yeah.
those are the ones that bring back the best memories. Cause we were, it was great company, but we were also just figuring that stuff out as we went.
Yeah.
Like we were blowing stocks like crazy and missing critters and just figuring it out. And that stuff was, I wouldn't trade that for the world, man. Like that when we started doing that, that really shaped who I was, like who I am as a hunter. Like it forced me to be like, this is just your thing. Show
Hmm.
up, figure it out. And if you do it with buddies, it's great. If you do it by yourself, that's great. But it's like those hunts are the best, man. I
Yeah.
miss those. We need to, and that's part of the thing. That's part of the reason I bitch so much about this resident, non-resident thing. I'm like, that's gone for us in a lot of
Hmm.
places, and
Yeah.
that will never come back. And not only like selfishly I want that, but I also want that for other people too. Like i
Hmm.
don't i don't want to take that away from other people.
Yeah.
And that's what's happened, and that's tough.
Yeah. Well, it's cool to see the story that the things that you remember back to your hunting with your buddies. It's cool to see somebody new, like to see it somebody through somebody new's eyes too. I podcasted with a buddy that I brought hunting on his first deer hunt like 2 years ago. And I remember trying to be like, I'm going to try to make this pretty easy for him. And I did a pretty poor job. Like we biked in a mile and walked another like 3/4 of a mile. And he is he won't, so he's a black guy and he's from Queens, New York, you know, and he's like, dude, like this is not something I ever, we're doing this thing and I took bikes out and he was like, he says in this podcast, he's like, man, when you brought those bikes out, I had to think like, do I even remember how to ride a bike? And he talks, he had some good, like some phone videos of me walking in the woods in the dark. And we happened to run across 2 deer in the dark. And I told him that I had seen bears in there like the week before while I was bow hunting. And, he's like, I couldn't feel my legs. As soon as you said, look, I see these two eyes, and he's telling me about how like I couldn't feel my legs and I thought I was going to have, cause he was carrying a Glock. And he's like, I thought I was going to unload all 20, and like, and just like, but seeing him, he shot his first deer this year. He shot a 5-pointer on some private that he got permission on, and it's cool to see the growth in that. But then look back on all those things that make me remember like what I
Right.
really loved about when I was a kid. Like getting in trouble. Like uh, we would, me and my farm buddies would drive. They were they I hunt on a family friend's farm from time to time, and we used to just take the John Deere because we weren't old enough to drive yet, but we could drive the tractor down the road. So we would like all hop in the John Deere and there'd be like four of us in the cab, And one time we found a tin of a tin of chewing tobacco in the glove
Ugh.
compartment. And we're all like 14 or 15 and we all like put a lipper in and we're like out rabbit hunting, and all of us are like, what's happening? Like I'm dizzy. Like and like, but just all those like fun little things that you get as a new hunter. And when you think back on them from when we're at, like, man, sometimes it's like it was yesterday, but it was such a long time ago. And I want to keep doing things like that. And I want to keep bringing people in to have that same experience. Cause like you said, selfishly, I want that for myself, but man, do I want to pass it on to other people. Cause
Right.
it's so fun and it's so important. So I hope people get that from this podcast. This is a year in camp, this episode. So I'm excited to share it with people.
Congratulations on making it a year, buddy.
Thanks, man. It's been fun. I've enjoyed every minute of it and all the conversations. Um, but yeah, it's been great to have you, man. I really appreciate it. Um, what do you got going on recently that you want people to check out? People know where to find you. If you don't, themeateater.com. Tony's there.
Yep. I got some stuff that I'm very, very excited about that I can't talk about yet,
Yeah.
but I'm 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 trying to put together a whitetail film that I don't think has ever been done before.
Oh,
And It's going to make a lot of people insanely jealous.
Yeah. I can't wait.
But if I pull it off, it's going to be badass. That's the big thing I'm working on. I think there's going to be some cool things in the podcast world here coming pretty soon. But yeah, everything that I produce is at themeateater.com. There's lots and lots of stuff there to check out.
Yeah, the foundations, the houndations, the wired to hunt, all the things. I'm really excited to see I heard you say something about taking sled dogs for a grouse hunt. I'm pretty excited to see that.
I'll tell you what, buddy. It took me about 4 seconds of driving my own little sled dog team before I was like, I get this completely. Like, totally
Yeah.
understand it. I also took me 2 days of camping in northern Minnesota in December to go, I don't need to do this shit anymore. Like that that world up there, where your boundary waters adjacent, right? You can't go into the boundary waters and film, but there's 2 million acres of public land up there next to it that you can go roam around in. It is such a wild, like truly wild environment.
Yeah.
There's nothing up there but wilderness, and it's almost empty of animals. Like it is such a strange place to be, especially we were there and it was cold.
Yeah.
It was like 14 below the last morning we woke up.
Oof.
So there was, I mean, literally nothing. Like you go out and you're like, there's no fresh tracks. You don't see any songbirds. It's just this, like, it's like there's a lid on the world and they just didn't let hardly anything in there. But it's not true. Like there's wolf tracks, there's stuff there. And it's just it's so fun to be in an environment like that where you actually feel like you're like, I'm not anywhere near another person.
Yeah.
Like even when you go elk hunting and you're camped 6 miles deep, there are people. Like there are just people getting around out in that stuff, whether they're riding horses up into the back country or it's other hunters or whatever. When you go into northern Minnesota, 10 miles deep with sled dogs and you're camping out there, you're like, we are truly alone. Like, and it's awesome. Like, it's just, it's cool. The grouse hunting sucks, but it's cool, to be there.
Yeah. That's so cool, dude. I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to see what you got coming down the pike. What do you think? Last question for you, though. In the next year, what do you think a win would look like for hunters and anglers if something could change in a positive direction?
I mean, I just like to see us keep moving in this direction that we have been. Like, people getting involved and paying attention to these issues is really important. I don't think we're ever going to not have to fight to keep public land around.
Yeah.
I know I don't want to beat a dead horse here because I know everybody who's listening to this has probably heard it a million times, but you cannot go anywhere in the world really and find this.
Yeah.
Like what we have is so special.
Yeah.
And it's not just having that national forest that we can go shoot some turkeys or deer in or whatever. Like it's the public land system that we have in this country is just unrivaled. We are so lucky, and the water situation too. Like the general public access to most of the water in this country is incredible.
Yeah.
Like that's something that I just think even if you don't hunt public land, like even if you fish private farm ponds, wherever, like you have to recognize how much of an advantage that is, a benefit it is to all citizens. And even if you're in that position and you don't really care, you might have to care at some point. Like you might lose that lease. You might things change. Like a developer comes along and offers that landowner some money to develop it. You might be a public land hunter suddenly. And it's easy to look at the right now, but we need that stuff. And even if you don't have to do that, the people who are coming up, they're going to need it. Somebody's going to need it. And so I hope we just keep on this trend of like really paying attention to these public land issues and fighting, like hard line fighting on this. I kind of feel, I kind of look at this like the Second Amendment, right? Like I think the Second Amendment's real important. I think that's a thing that we have to fight for because I think this country needs it. Like I just personally do. And so any concessions on that stuff, and I know we've made a million concessions on the Second Amendment because there's a lot of regulations, and I'm not arguing against those. I'm just saying, like, when we draw a line in the sand on some of this stuff, like it's important to stay on one side because like the public land thing, we need that stuff. You know, just like I think we need the right to defend ourselves, bear arms. Like I just do.
I agree. Dude, thanks so much. This is the conversation that I was looking for. It's always awesome to catch up with you and have a good conversation, buddy.
For sure, brother. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Well, that's a wrap. Thanks so much for listening to Tony and I chop it up. I always have so much fun talking to him, and he is a wealth of information. He's such a good resource. So please go over and listen to Tony on the Wired to Hunt podcast. See all his writing at themeateater.com. Listen to his newest podcast on Cal's Week in Review, the Houndations podcast. There's some really great stuff. If you like bird dogs over there, you are going to learn a lot on that podcast. So please check him out. He's also on the Instagram. He's not super active because he cares about better things in life. So please check out all those things. If you would, please go follow In Camp Podcast on Apple and Spotify podcasts, wherever you listen. Hit the follow button, like and subscribe to the things, all the things, give a review, leave a rating. It would be greatly appreciated. You can follow what we've got going on the show at incamp_podcast on Instagram, and you can email me incamppodcast@gmail.com as well, if you would like. Thank you so much again for listening week after week. This year has been incredible, and I've enjoyed talking with each and every one of you that's reached out. I've really just had so much fun, and I feel blessed to be here and be doing this because it's really fun. So thanks again. This is In Camp Podcast.